My name is Julie Bayshore and I represent Satin Fine Foods. I've worked with Kevin O'Reilly, the president of Satin Fine Foods, for probably 20 years now. So we've spent most of that time in the last 20 years promoting and teaching bakeries, in-store bakeries, chefs in hotels, and even home cake decorators in how to work with this wonderful product. I prefer to work without powdered sugar and icing sugar, cornstarch or corn flour, because I find that's inclined to dry out the product. It's absorbed into the fondant. If you work with a silicone mat or a plastic mat, little Crisco or shortening on your hands and just knead this up without any dry product on here, you will find that that will be adequate, and you will not run into the problem of having your rolled fondant drying out on you. And one of the things one has to be careful with when rolling is, with the hands being on each side of the rolling pin, it's quite easy to get the outside of the fondant thin but not the middle. People do not like generally to chew their frosting, so our policy is to roll the fondant out as thinly as possible to cover our cakes, so that people are not having to chew their frosting. Once you have this spread out, rolled out, then you can push from the middle. So what you're doing effectively is pushing and pulling the fondant from the center out to the edge. You'll notice that I'm working from the middle out. The objective is to get the fondant thin and even from the center to the outer edges. Use the end of your rolling pin to work the middle. And you'll see how thinly this fondant has been rolled. One thing about working with fondant, if you need to cut up and patch in another area, that is easy to do if you don't have any powdered sugar or fondant. You can actually join the pieces together. So if you need to elongate one side, instead of starting all the way from the beginning again, you can patch. You can see that I haven't used any powdered sugar or cornstarch, corn flour or icing sugar on here. I've rolled it directly onto the mat, and I'm going to use that mat to help me put the fondant over the top of my cake. You can see it's not sliding off at all. I'm just going to take this mat, flip this over the cake, and very gently peel the fondant away from the cake. Using a dry sponge, I'm going to use the sponge to mold this fondant to the cake, working mostly on the corners first and then filling in around the edge. The good thing about the Satin Ice fondant is you can actually pull it and stretch it, so that if you are a little short on one side, you can actually hold the fondant and pull it down and stretch it out, instead of pulling it off the cake and starting all over again. That's one of the reasons that one of the main reasons I love the Satin Ice. It's because it is stretchable and it doesn't tear, it doesn't flake away from the cake. It adheres really well. Then using a little pizza wheel or plastic wheel, trim off around the edge of the cake. Pull off the excess. And because this excess has not been contaminated with any powdered sugar or cornstarch, it is still in its natural state. You can take all of this and put it back in the tub, providing you keep the tub well sealed and closed. This will keep fresh and moist for up to a year. So it really is a wonderful product.